Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Good morning, Josh. Okay.
Hi, Josh.
We're going to start today on Mem Beis Amud Beis. That's 43b. Towards the top, 4 lines from the top. Esfei Reb Shimon ben Lakish to Reb Yechanan. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to have learning, we should have the base of Mikdash. Learning also for Shlema from my father, for Naftali ben Menuch Bela. We were learning that a non-Jew is able to nullify an idol, to say that it's not an idol anymore. A Jew wasn't able to do that. What happens if the idol breaks on its own? It belonged to a non-Jew. Is it considered nullified? Non-Jew says, look, if it can't protect itself, so it can't protect me. That was the opinion of Rish Lakish. And then the opinion of Rabbi Yechanan was that, no, it was because it wasn't broken by the non-Jew, so it's still considered an idol. So we had a bunch of questions from Rabbi Yechanan to Rish Lakish yesterday. Today we're learning the questions from Rish Lakish to Rabbi Yechanan. Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Kan Shabreisha Ilan Shel Hektish. Let's say there's a bird's nest. Reb Shimon ben Lakish is asking Rabbi Yechanan. Let's say there's a bird's nest on top of a tree. Hektish. Tree is hektish. How do you make a tree hektish? I guess you say the tree's hektish. You can make property hektish. Say the property belongs to the base of Mikdash. So here he's saying that the tree belongs to the base of Mikdash. And on top of it is a bird's nest. Well, you're not allowed to climb up the tree because the tree belongs to Ektish. You can't have benefit from it. Leimayalim means that if you did climb up the tree, you don't have to bring a carbon meila. You didn't get personal use. It's not considered you had personal use from something that's consecrated and you have to bring a carbon. No, we don't say that. In other words, there's a lechatchila and a b'diavad. Lechatchila, you're not supposed to use the tree to help you get to the nest, but b'diavad, it's fine. Let's say you have the same bird nest on top of a tree of idolatry. So it says, Yatiz b'kaniyikol. When this morning. So it says Yatiz b'kana. You take a stick and you get it off the tree with the stick. Now, what do we want? Let's see what we're going to bring out. We want to bring out that even though the wood of the tree, we're thinking that who makes the nest? The bird makes the nest, right? It takes the little pieces, little twigs. But it took the twigs from the tree of the Asherah to make the nest, right? It collects the things to make the nest. Now, that would have been nullified on its own. That's not a non-Jew that's nullified. That's the bird that was taking the twigs. We're assuming that it made the nest out of the pieces of the tree. And it says that you're allowed to use it. You're allowed to get the nest. Now, what are you going to do with the nest? You're going to burn it, probably. You're not going to use it in your science lab. Back then, they didn't have that. But they would burn the little twigs from the nest. So, and you're allowed to do that, which means that it was because it's been nullified naturally nullified, and therefore the non-Jew would say that if it can't protect itself, so it's not going to protect me. Well, the Gemara says, we can say, Rabbi Yechanan would answer the question from Rish Lakish should say that's not a question, because, we're dealing with here. It didn't get the twigs. The bird didn't get the twigs from this tree. It got the twigs from other trees all around. I had a nest in my yard, and a small tree in the yard. Took a close look at the nest. The bird made it from a yarmulke. It had found the yarmulke in the yard and had put twigs all around it, but the base of it was a yarmulke that I had found. My kids left the yarmulke outside. Anyway, Yeah, I don't know how it lifted it up with its beak to get it there, but I guess it figured it out. So it took the twigs from somewhere else. Take it, Nami. I'll prove it to you. Because when it came to the first case by the hektish, it says that you're not supposed to have benefit from the tree. But if you did, it's not a problem. If the wood did not come from the tree, then fine. If the twigs of the did not come from the tree, then fine. Our issue was getting to it, but the item itself was no problem. And once you take it, there's no issue. There's no there's a rabbinic law, means a lechatchila law, that you're not supposed to make benefit from the tree. But the halekachi, because the nest itself wasn't consecrated. But if you say that the twigs came from the tree itself, why is it we say there's no me'ilah? The twigs itself are hektish. My answer is me the area. Do you think that's a proof? It's not really an answer. What happened was we gave an answer. We were giving an answer for Rabbi Yechanan. That's why are you allowed to use the nest that came from this tree? Our answer was it came from the twigs came from other trees, not from this tree itself. This tree is idolatrous tree, and the twigs came from other trees. And now Rabbi Yechanan is proving this by saying that if this is not the case, then how would you explain the first part of the Mishnah of this? Is this a Mishnah or a Mishnah? Probably, I don't know. How would you explain the first part of this, where it says that if it's hektish, it's no problem? Obviously, it had to come from somewhere else. Gemara says that's not it. That's not a real proof. Because over here, we're talking about where it grew after he consecrated it. And this is following an opinion that holds that when you're maked to something, it becomes consecrated. But if it continues to sprout after that, those new things that are sprouting are not consecrated. Yeah. So therefore, the nest was made out of the wood from the tree itself, but it still wasn't consecrated, and that's why there was no halacha of me'ilah. And at the same time, it's possible that it was made from the tree itself when it came to the Asherah tree, and that would be a support to Rish Lakish. Okay. Rabavo Rabbi Yechanan, my yat is Rabavo says in Emmerich, what does it mean that you can get the nest off? You hit it with the stick. Yat is be'afreichem. It means you get the small birds off. The nest itself is a problem. We're talking about having benefit from the birds that you're getting from the nest, and that's not a problem. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Tachlifa, asber lach be'afreichem, kan v'kan v'tarim. I'll explain it to you. That if we're dealing with getting the small birds from the nest, then whether the nest was hektish or whether the nest was a Asherah tree, it's mutter. But if it's the eggs from the nest, kan v'kan, then they're both considered prohibited. Another explanation for why it's prohibited, probably because it's more connected to the nest if it's the eggs, because it can't live without, it can't survive if it's not in the nest. And Ravashi Rafrechem Shetzrichon Leiman Kebeitim Dami. Ravashi adds, he says that if the birds are so young that they still require the mother to come and feed them, so that's considered like eggs, which would be prohibited, as if it's part of the tree itself. That was the point. That's why Rish Lakish was using this as a proof. The bird doesn't have any intention, so it's as if it just broke on its own, and it was removed from the tree on its own. If that's the case, then why should it be permissible to make use of? It must be that even if it breaks on its own, it's permissible. That was a machlekes Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yechanan. Okay. We have a new Mishnah. Hamaitzi Kalim. Someone finds utensils, Valem Tiras Chama, and on the utensils is an image of the sun. Tiras Levana, an image of a moon. Remember that Mendy and the Golem? Mendy comes home, and his mother says, Mendy, is this a 0 on your test? He says, no, it's a moon. My teacher ran out of stars. So, anyway, there's a moon on the, it probably doesn't mean a 0. It probably means like the crescent. Tourist darken. Or if there's an image of a dragon, no, this is the big problem. You've just found an idol. You have to throw it into the sea. Yam HaMelech either means the Dead Sea or it means just an ocean, salt water. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, well, it depends. If it's a important vessel, then asura. Then we say that it's prohibited because the image that's on it is for an idol. But if it's on a not respectful vessel, I don't know, maybe like a chamber pot or something, then it's mutarim, then it's permissible. Okay. The Gemara now analyzes the Mishnah. It says, are you trying to tell me that there's only 3 images that would be worshipped and that other images are not worshipped? There's a contradiction to this. It says, someone slaughters an animal, and he hasn't in mind to he's slaughtering it to the seas, l'shem naharis, to the rivers, l'shem midbar, to the desert, l'shem chamis, to the sun, l'shem levana, to the moon, l'shem kechav mazalis, to the other constellations, the stars and the planets. L'shem Michal Saragal, he's slaughtering it to the angel Michael. L'shem Shilshil Katan, to a small worm. Ariel Zivchei Mesim, all of these are offerings to an idol. It's called Zivchei Mesim, dead, the offerings of the dead. Well, apparently there's other things that they worship, and not just 3 things, sun, moon, and dragon, like the Mishnah made it look like. The Gemara answers, Amar Abaya explains, Miflach lakol the mishkei palchi. These people will worship anything that they find. Meitzar umafalchi, but to go and form an image and then worship it, hani tlased chashivi tzaylo palchilu l'midachini l'nei bal ma'avdilu. To form an image, to go through that effort, to actually make something, they're only going to make it if it's one of these 3, sun, moon, or dragon. But if they're making other images, those are just decorations, because they're not going to go through the effort to make these other images. They'll worship anything, but to go and form it, that they're not going to do. Manket Rav Sheshes Chumri Masnais Vitani. Well, Rav Sheshes, he gathers together all of the stringencies of the Brises, Mishnayos. He put it together and he says, here's the rules that you need to know. Kol Mazalis, all constellations that you find, if you find images of them, they're mutarim, they're permissible to have benefit from, chutzmi mazal chama levana, except for the sun and the moon. That's from the constellations. You find Saturn or Jupiter, no problem. Kol partzufin mutarim, all faces that you find, those are permissible, chutzmi parts of adam, except if it's the face of a man. Kol atzuris mutaris, and all other images are mutar, chutzmi tzuris darken, except for a dragon. Now, Reb Sheshes didn't add anything to what we knew from the Mishnah, except for the face of a man, which we didn't see that in our Mishnah. Amar Mar, the master taught. Actually, one year they made a coin with the Rebbe's image on it. And I remember people saying that that's a halachic problem, because it's an image that was protruding. People were saying that was an issue, that we weren't supposed to have an image on metal that was protruding. We didn't make. I mean, it was made by the government. The government made the coin. It was some sort of thing. So, I forget, like. So it was like the opposite of that? Possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, Amar Mar, master taught. Who's the master here? Rav Sheshis. Usually, for Rav Sheshis, usually would say Gufa. But maybe because Rav Sheshis was collecting from the Brises, maybe that's what it says Amar Mar. I'm not sure. Usually Gufa is the term that's used for an Amira, and Amar Mar is used for a Brisa. Well, whatever the case is, it says Kol HaMazalos Mutarin Chutz Mimasal Chamalavana. You take out the word hacha. It says all constellations that you find are mutter, except if it's the sun or the moon. It says b'maya skinan. What are we dealing with? Ilema ba'isa. Are we talking about that he's making it? Iba'isa kol hamazalos mishari. You're allowed to make. You're allowed to form an image of other constellations. But we have a clear pasuk. Leisasan iti. You should not make along with me. Leisasan kidmusha mashem shamshal fanim b'marim. Don't make any images of the things that serve in the heavens, which is the other constellations. You're not allowed to make them. Ella pshita b'maitz. We're talking about not that you make them. We're talking about that you found it. The question is, are you allowed to keep it? There's only those you're not allowed to keep, but the other ones you're allowed to keep. So we made a differentiation between making it versus keeping it. One second. Talking about keeping it, let's go a little further. It says kol ha'partzufim mutarin chutz min partzuf adam. Yeah, all faces are permissible except for the face of a man. If we're talking about just keeping it, not forming it, partzuf adam miyaser, you're not allowed to keep the face of a man. But tonight we have a Mishnah that says, darken for its parts of Adam light. And there's no problem with keeping the face of a man, an image. It must mean that the problem is just making it. And making the face is a problem. Look at the Rav Huna braid Rav Yeshua. Like Rav Huna braid Rav Yeshua says that there is a problem to make the face an image of a man. But we didn't get to it yet. We'll get to it soon. Okay, now Ibaisa, but if it's talking about making the image of a man, name a sefer, let's go further. It says, and all images are acceptable except for the image of a dragon. If we're talking about making it, are you not allowed to make? Is it prohibited to make an image of a dragon? You should not make any images, any gods of silver or gold. And we learned from that, Leisasan iti, we said before that that's referring to Shamashayam Shamshim Lefanai Bamarim, only heavenly things, other things of the heaven, like the constellations and things like that, like the planets, not a dragon. Honey enters dark and light. There's no problem with making an image of a dragon.
Question. Does this mean they believe in dragons? Was dragon just an example of something that doesn't exist, but they made it up to?
No, I think but it's not telling me that these dragons were spitting fire and all of that.
Oh, come on. The dragon spits fire. Does a bear live in the woods?
It doesn't give me those details. Whatever they thought it was, maybe it's
didn't they think it was a heavenly creature? I thought, like, weren't these in heaven, these dragons that they believed in? They thought
maybe.
They were.
Oh, but it wasn't. Apparently, our Gemara is considering it not something that lived in the heavens.
I'm pretty sure the Hindus believe in things like that, but in the heavenly sphere.
Fly in the sky.
This is, you would have to find it more like Greek. The Gemara, I don't know if I think it's dealing more with what the Greeks and those people had in common, the Romans.
Okay.
Certainly. The Greeks, they were who worshipped the cow. Is that like a Indian thing or something?
Yeah, South Indian thing. Yeah.
I don't think we have that in the Gemara that we have with the worship of cows and stuff. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Yes, the dragon's connected to the Nakash.
Oh, think so?
Maybe Darwinian wise.
Okay, so we have a question. We're not able to get the teaching of Rav Sheshes to fit perfectly with the scenario. What's the case that we're dealing with? Is it that you're making it, or is it that you're finding it?
By the way, if eels can shoot electricity, dragons.
Right.
Oklahoma.
They have these guys, they spy, I think they put the stuff in their mouth, like alcohol or something,
Yeah.
and then they bowl around.
Says they used the dragon logo for the Roman military to make fear or something.
To show that what?
To show strength.
Oh.
The Romans had it as a logo.
Oh, really? On the interesting. So in the you know the Sensino Tanakh, this like single volumes, the Sensino. That's the gesture, very good. But there's in there was a comment from Gamasat Zara. Also, the hornets I will send before you to wage war. So in there's a comment that says that on the Egyptian armor, there was a hornet, and it was referring to the Egyptians. That's what the comment. I don't think it was. The Sensino Tanakh had two versions. First version, they used all types of scholarship. It wasn't necessarily Jewish. And then in 1980 something, they redid it. They made it only Jewish. They took out all the. I think that this I saw in the old one. So,
Don't we have explanation that the hornets, they sting or swallow, they
Right.
keep on stinging inside, so it's like get much worse than the bee, they'll just get one sting outside, they keep on going.
was it in Rashi
I
recently?
remember we learned that,
And,
just, I don't know if it's true or not. So it might be true.
Okay. Rather, we're dealing with that you found it. And as it says in the Mishnah, it's interesting over here that we're learning that you're not allowed to make a drag. You're allowed to make it, but you're not allowed to keep it. This is counterintuitive. As it says in our Mishnah, that if you find utensils, and on it are images of the sun or the moon or the dragon, you're not allowed to keep it. Okay, so good. So we're dealing with, Rav Sheshes is dealing with keeping it, not making it. The Gemara now says, but you weren't, the only thing you weren't allowed to make was the image of a man. And other things you weren't allowed to keep. So the sun, the moon, or the dragon you're not allowed to keep. What was the Resha? The Resha was the sun and the moon. What's the Seifa? Is the dragon. Those you're not allowed to keep. And then the middle one, which is talking about a man, you're not allowed to make. So it says, is that what you want to say? Resha v'seifa b'maitza mitziyasa ba'isa. You're going to say that it's inconsistent what the scenario is in these in the cases of Rav Sheshes. Amar Abaya in Resha v'seifa b'maitza mitziyasa ba'isa. Abaya is perfectly fine with having different scenarios for the three clauses of that statement. Rava says kul b'maitza. Everything, it's all consistent. Everything is talking about if something that you found. And Matthiasa, the problem with the human image, which was the middle case, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. That's Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda Ma'isif, after Musminika, there's also a problem to have an image of a nursing mother. The Sar Apis, and also Sar Apis. Rashi says,
Zara of Ephes.
something that he left and he became some sort of minister. The Koran would probably tell me. Yeah, who has a Koran? Do they have a? You got it? Do they have a? What's it called? Do they say that they know what this is? Sarapis. Yeah, bust of Sarapis, crowned with a modius grain measure. They have a picture of him in here.
That him?
That's him.
This guy?
Okay, so the name of a god, Serapis, whose worship originated in ancient Egypt and Greece and spread throughout the Roman Empire, including Eretz Yisrael.
There, how to be. Is that covered like by benefit? Or is this like
I'm talking about if you find it, then it may have been an idol. But you're not allowed to make idols also. So, but certain things that you make them, just an image, it's just decorative. It's not an idol.
so once if someone worships it, then it's one.
So, if certain things that you find, we consider them that it was probably worshipped, and they were therefore prohibited, or do we say that it was probably decorative and it wasn't worshipped? So we limited it to the three things of a sun, moon, and a dragon, which is probably worshipped. Other things would have been decorative.
Wasn't it that opposed to make?
And it allows you to make a dragon. You can make a dragon, yeah.
I'm sorry, but nowadays, because they're all, you go in the tchotchke store and go home goods and there's suns, moons, dragons, dragons, there are a lot of dragons. Nobody's worshiping.
Right.
But are they also for
I don't know. I don't know what the halacha is going to be today. So take a look at this.
It's a getchka of a lady with a little baby.
Yeah, it's interesting here that I would have imagined that we're going to have a censored version here, but I didn't see anything. Let's take a look. It says, Minika, what's the problem with the nursing mother? Al Shem Chava, Sheminika is Kalam Kulay. This is referring to Chava that nursed, that sustained the whole world. Sarapis, what's Sarapis? Where does that come from? Shem Yosef. Shesar Umafis is Kalam Kulay. This is Yosef that's also sustained the whole world. Referring to Yosef. Apis somehow is Yosef. Sar Umapis. I'm sorry?
He has like the granaries that Yosef created.
Right.
God has it on his head.
You see, he has a bowl on his head. This is only if he's measuring, if he's holding a measuring thing and he's measuring. That would be considered an idol. And he and she denakta ben v'kaminika. She's holding a son and she's nursing. Only that would be an idol. I thought that this was for sure going to have some other version here. It didn't. It doesn't say anything. Okay. Now with Tana Rabbanan, starting in the Brisa, Ezutzur is darkened. What is an image of a dragon? Pirish Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, "Kol sheyesh leitzitzin bein pirkav," as long as if he has scales on his joints. Machvi Ravasi pointed bein pirkei tzavar, the joints of his neck. Prakav may be in his spine. Chol Yosef means scales on his spine, and he says on the neck. Amar Rav Chama bar Rabbi Chanina halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Chama bar Rabbi Chanina, Rav Chanina bar Chama was a student of Rebbe. This is his son, Rav Chama bar Chanina. He says the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Shimon ben Elazar is machlekes, but we think he's a student of Reb Meir. Amar Rabbi bar Bechana Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi bar Bechana says the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Pamachzis mahalach acher Rabbi Elazar a kapar bribi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, one time I was walking after Rabbi Lazar HaKapar the Great. Rebbe means the Great. Baderach, on the road. Matzah Shem Tabas, he found a ring. Is darkened. And on the ring was a dragon, an image of a dragon. He finds a young non-Jew there. He doesn't tell him anything. Rabbi Lazar HaKapar didn't pick up the ring. He finds an adult, Batla. He tells him, I want you to nullify this ring, make it not an idol. Say that you don't worship it anymore. Batla, the guy didn't listen to him. Satchu, so he slapped him. Batla, then the guy said, oh, you mean business? Okay. So he nullified it. Shema min atlas. You learn from this three things. Shema min avicham mevatla v'etzcham shalei v'shel chaver. We see that a non-Jew can nullify his own idol, but he can also nullify someone else's idol. As a non-Jew, it's like he has that authority to make statements about other idols. You have to know about idolatry to be able to nullify it. Just a child can't nullify an idol. You can't do it. That's why we waited for the adult. We also learned that he could be compelled to nullify. We don't need to, he doesn't have to do it willingly. See, that's quite convincing, right?
That's fine.
Right. Megadef ba Rav Chanina. Rav Chanina, Megadef is like degraded this statement. He says, V'leslei Rabbi Lazar Kap Bibi Hadetanan. Rabbi Lazar, what's going on over here? Rabbi Lazar Baribi, Rabbi Lazar Kapar the Great, he doesn't have the following Mishnah that everyone learned in Bava Metzia. Amatzel min Ari, min Adayv, min Anamer, min Agayas, min Anar, mizut shalyam shlish sanar, amitz b'shratya, plati gedela b'chol makom shab mitzrim, sham re'el shalai b'nei shabbat m'siyah shemem. This is so obvious that he shouldn't need to have been mevatel it at all, because the person that put it there is like threw it away and realized that it's lost, that he gave up hope. Why? It says if someone saves an item from the clutches of a lion, from a bear, from a leopard, or from an army, or from the river, from the overflow of the ocean, from the tide of the river, and if someone finds something in a public area, Port Authority, so or any place where there's a lot of people there, so Harel Shalai, you can keep it, because the owner has given up hope. So why does he need to get the non-Jew to say that it's not it's already ownerless? Amar Abaya says, Nihi Demina miyayish, misur mi miyayish. 1 second. There's two things here. There's ownership, and then there's if it's an idol. That Mishnah is only talking about are you allowed to keep it? Who owns it? It says that if the owner gave up hope, you can keep it. But that doesn't mean that it's not an idol anymore. Meimar Amar, the person is thinking, the original owner, if a non-Jew finds it, so then he'll be happy. Someone will worship it. If a Jew finds it, the Jew will probably sell it to a non-Jew. Mit the mamzer, he'll make a business, he'll sell it, and but whatever. So in other words, in the non-Jew's mind that owned it, he thinks that somehow it's going to find its home and it's going to be worshipped again. So he didn't say reject it from being an idol. Yeah. Oh, good.
Didn't we
I'm
just say
sorry?
didn't we just say that you can't, if you find something with an image of a dragon or sun or a moon, that you cannot keep it?
Yeah, unless it is rejected from being. In other words, that's without a non-Jew rejecting. Once the Jew acquires it, then it's finished. You can never take it out from being an idol. But before the Jew acquires it, in that case, Rabbi Lazar Kapar, he wanted a non-Jew to make it not an idol before he took it. Yeah, otherwise it would be a problem. Yeah. Okay, Tanan Hassan, we learned over there. Mishnah, there's this in Rosh Hashanah. The Musters Levanis Hayleler Rab Gamliel Bal Yosef Betavla Kaisel Shbem Mares Ed Yaitis. Armalehem Kazeri Isya Kazeri Isya. So the Mishnah says that Rabbi Gamliel had in his office, in his attic, he had images of shapes of moons. And when people would come and say that they spotted they had a sighting of the new moon, so he would show him these images. He would say, "Did you see this one, or did you see this one? Did you see that one, or did you see that one?" So they had like a planetarium, and is that what it's called? Planetarium? And he would show them like the different things. Was it like this? Was it like that? The Gemara asks, "Mishari, is he allowed to have that?" But it says in the pasuk, you're not allowed to have images of the things in the heavens. I visited my grandmother here in Miami many years ago. Must have been like 1984 or something. Anyway, we went down to the yeshiva on 1140 Alton Road. They had just painted the kindergarten on 1140. And outside, this is where the Landau school was. And outside, they had painted like grass and trees, and on the top was the sun. Picture of the sun with and Rabbi Korf, the old Rabbi Korf was walking by. He said, "You have to put something in front of the sun. It shouldn't be a whole sun. You can't have a picture of the sun." He wanted like a cloud in front or something. The whole sun, the whole orb, the sun is a problem. I never heard it. Since then, I haven't heard anyone like say, "Oh, there's a picture of the sun." Can't have that. But he was strict. Okay.
All these calendars have pictures of moons and suns with the sections. The full moon, on a calendar or something.
And is it a Jewish calendar?
Usually not,
Yeah.
no. But it's on a Jewish home. It's on a regular calendar.
I don't know.
Check it out.
What,
That's why the teacher's not allowed to give a 0.
what's the problem? You can't have a moon also? I mean, like my watch shows the moon phases. If I use a certain thing, that way for
I don't know.
this and this and that.
I don't know. I haven't heard anyone being strict about it other than Rabbi Korf. But okay. So
the paddock believe.
Oh, no, I mean, you can choose all these things. One of them shows you when Rosh Chodesh, it says my heat dates this and that.
Amar Abaya, so Abaya answers the question on Rabbi Gamliel. He says, you're only not allowed to make images of things that you can actually make properly the image of. You should not make a house that has the image of a Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. A house that has the same form as the Heichal, the sanctuary. Achsadra Tavna Sulam, or the hallway that's the same dimensions of the Ulam. Chatzer Tavna Zara, you can't make something that's similar to the Zara. Shulchan Tavna Shulchan, you can't make the table similar to the table in the base of Mikdash. Menorah Tavna Menorah, you can't make the menorah the same image as the menorah. It's funny, in Chabad they like to do the Rambam's menorah. We'll see in a moment why. But you're allowed to make it if it has 5 branches, 6 branches, or 8 branches. No problem. You can't make it from 7 branches because the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash is different than the Hanukkah menorah. Beis Hamikdash menorah was 7 branches. That's the one you're not allowed to make. Want to make 8 or 9? No problem. Even if it's made from other types of metal, not of gold. The original menorah was made of gold. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says you can't even make it from wood. As the house of the Hashmonai made after they rededicated the temple, they didn't have the funds. They made it out of wood. Amalai Misham Raya. You bring a proof from there. They didn't make it out of wood. They made it out of spits of iron. And they covered it with tin. Ashiru, when they got more richer, Elsam Shal Kesef, they made it from silver. Chadru, they got Ashiru, they got richer. Elsam Shal Zav, they made it out of gold. Okay, now.
How to make the money?
What's our answer? That how did Ram Gamliel have these images of the moon? Because you can't make it exactly like the moon. It's only things that you can make exactly of. That was the problem. But the moon, you can't make it exact. Gemara says the Shamash is last mishari, and that's allowed. But Tanya, it says clearly you're not allowed to make it. Anything that was the hosts in the heaven, you're not allowed to make. Amar Abaya says must dalid panim bahadiyadadi. What that meant was the faces on the chariot, where you had the ox and the man and the lion and the eagle, all on different sides of the same face. Like in other words, the cube that had.
Rabbi, you going back to the moon for a second. The moon never looks the same to us any day of the month.
Does to me.
So when you make a picture of the moon, you're only making a snapshot in time.
Right.
So maybe that was the.
That's the problem because you're not really getting the whole thing.
That's how you get out of it, because you're saying he had the moon, but it's not really the moon, because what was yesterday is not the moon today. It's not tomorrow. So it's never really a example of the moon. I think. What?
I think the Gemara is assuming that the moon is so far away, you can't really know exactly what it looks like. You make a ball. In school, they made it out of paper mache. Paper mache. You soak the newspaper in water, and then you would form it into something. It would let it harden.
And then you put a Chabad guide over there. If you put on today's.
Okay. So if that's the case, so basically what Abaya just did was he limited it to this one image of the chariot. That's the one that's a problem. The parts of Adam if that's the case, then why can't you make the image of a man? Allah Matanya, I was taught in the Brisa, parts of Adam. Everything is prohibited except for the image of a man. Amar Rav Yehuda Breder Rav Yeshua Mipirkid Rav Yeshua Shmieli. Rav Yehuda, let's get this clear. Breder Rav Yeshua. Who's this? What's the Aleph over here? Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. Mipirkid the Rabbi Yeshua Shmiel. I heard it from the teachings of Rabbi Yeshua. Which Rabbi Yeshua is this? They're correcting it to Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. Huna Breder Rav Yeshua is the later Amira, the friend of Rav Papa, the students of Abaya and Rava. It says that he heard it from the Shir from Rabbi Yeshua, that it says over there, Leisasan iti, Leisasan oisi. She can't make an image of me, which means an image of man, because man is made in God's image. But other images are permissible. Okay, so there's a special prohibition on man. But other images are permissible. But Tanya, can't make images of like the angels or the heavenly hosts or all of that. They found him fiery angels, and the Ifanim is called Ifanim because they roll over in excitement. Hashem, like a wheel, like a ofanayim, right? It's a bicycle, Hebrew, modern Hebrew. And Srafim, you can't make images of the angels. So you can't make other images. Those are the higher things. We're not talking about the higher. The angels is a problem, but images of the constellation of the sun and the planets, the sun and the moon, that's not a problem. Oh, really? You're allowed to make the planets and all of that. When it says in the Ten Commandments not to make images that are things of the heaven, you can't make images of the sun, the moon, and the stars and constellations. Mimal, when it says that are above, the Rabbis Malachi Asheris is coming to include the angels. Whereas Kitanya he la'avdam. Over there, it's not talking about making them; it's talking about worshiping them. He loved them worshiping. I feel shel nami. You can't even worship a worm. Forget about things that are in the heaven. It says enachanami. And we say for the kranafka. You're right. And that we learn from later on. The Tanya was taught. It was taught in a braysa Asher Ba'aretz. That's in the earth. L'rabes yamam and haris harimagvais. That's coming to include the oceans and the rivers and the mountains and the valleys. Mitachas l'rabes shel shakatan. And underneath earth, it's coming to include even the worms you're not allowed to worship. Basir greidasim mishari, but you're allowed to make them. Batani leisasin iti leisasin b'shemashim sham shelafanim b'marim ken chamalavana kechav mazalis. You quoted the wrong one before. Before you quoted, you can't make the angels. But we have another one, another brisa that says you can't make even the planets, the sun and the moon. How was it? But all of this is a problem with Rabbi Gamliel's images that he had in his attic. My answer, Shani Rabbi Gamliel the Acher Masala, he didn't make it. Other people made it for him. But Rabbi Yehuda the Acher Masala, Rabbi Yehuda that had something similar, and other people made it for him. Bamali Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda, and Shmuel told Rabbi Yehuda Shinina, sharp one, or buck teeth, right? Sami ain't the Dane. You have to blind the eyes. I mean, you don't make it look. You have to ruin it. My answers don't make it attractive, I guess. There's Hasan b'cheisamay bailet over there. That's because it was protruding. The image was protruding. Mishum chashada, and there was a concern. How do they translate chashada? You shouldn't think that other people shouldn't think that you worship it. The Tanya was taught in a braysa, tabas shechisama bailet. If you have an signet ring that it's protruding, asalanicha, you're not allowed to wear it. It has an image on it that's protruding. But you're allowed to use it to push into wax, because when you push it into wax, instead of being it's embossed, right? Embossed, as opposed to
Embossed, it's when it protrudes, indented.
indented. Is that the word? Josh, what's the word? That's embossed. I can't hear you. You're muted. No, Josh.
What's the opposite of embossed?
Josh Green.
Oh, Josh. Hi, Josh Green. Josh Green's on that.
So I'm sorry. That was indented. That's allowed to wear. Chisama shekeya, if it's indented, then it's mutal and you're allowed to wear it. Vasalachtem, but you can't seal with it, because if you would push it into wax, it would end up being protruding. The Gemara now asks, now we worried about people might think that you worship it, but Beiknishta the Shavi Yosef, there was this shul in a place called Shavi Yosef, and this is where the exiles came, Yechanya. They took stones from Yerushalayim, and they built over there a shul. And Benardai, that was in Nardai, Nukme Be Andarti, the Andarta, there was over there some statue. But the Shmuel's father and Levi, very important people, they would go inside and daven. And we didn't have a concern that people would think that maybe they were worshiping the statue. There's Rabbim shiny in a public area, that's a different story. We're talking about you keeping it privately in your house, that's a different story. But Ram Gamliel the Yachadavi, Ram Gamliel had it privately, had it in his office. It says Kivan the Nasi Havi Shricha Ram Gambi. He was a Nasi. So many people were there, that's not considered private. If you want, you could say the Prakim that it was made out of different pieces, and he wouldn't put it together only when he was checking the witnesses. So people wouldn't see it regularly. And let's see what else. Anybody saying another pshat? Let's lamed shiny. When you're learning, it's different. The Tanya like timid lasis about lamed love and lahiris, but you can't make it. You can't learn to do it, but you can learn it in order to teach and to paskin. So that's why we had these images for other things. Yeah. Reb Shimon Gamliel says, depends if the image is on a honorable keli or on a keli that's
Gift store.
not respectable. Amarav, what does it mean? What does this mean? Honorable means that it's something that's used that it's above water, Mevuzim is lamatim in amayim. That means that it's below water. Let's see what this means. Rashi says that the figure on the side of the vessel above the level of the water, of the food contents. Disgraceful is below the level. It's below the food contents, right? The soup line. Shmuel Amar Eilu ve'Eilu mevuzim. Both of these are disgraceful. Ella Elohim mechubadim. What are the ones that are honorable? Shel hasherim, shel nazam tabayis. It's bracelets or nose rings or other rings. Tani kavasei the Shmuel. If a bracelet that supports Shmuel, it says mechubadim. What are the important ones? Shel hasherim, shel nazam tabayis. If it's on bracelets, nose rings or other rings. Mevuzim. What are disgraceful ones? Shel yoris. If it's a large pot. Val kumkum masim, or if it's on a kettle. Val mecham mechamin, or upon a samovar. Or sheets or towels. I'm sorry?
The Benedictine bottle.
Oh, yeah. Is that a problem?
No, because they never had it, so nobody.
Okay. Have a good day, everyone. We're up to date.
It has to be over. Why does it have to be over?
That's a good question.